Just comes up. The video. Yeah, that. The second one of those. Right. Sometimes that lines would be generally.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. I'd like to call this meeting to order, starting with roll call. Joe?
Here.
Corby?
Here.
Nicole? Here. John?
Here.
Jen?
Here.
And I'm here as well. We officially have quorum. We do have Juan Carlos Medina with us, who will be also sworn in as our new board member. And officially we will have him as part of our full board once we get to that point in the agenda. Nicole, would you go ahead? Has this meeting been properly noticed?
It has indeed.
And would you read our interim equity statement?
Well, the interim equity statement reads, each student has access to the resources and educational rigor they need at the right moment in their education, regardless of race, gender identity, ethnicity, ability, language, sexual orientation, religion, family background, or family income. And the results statement states that each student will acquire the knowledge and skills necessary to achieve their personal goals, thrive in a diverse global society, and lead a healthy, self-fulfilling life.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the agenda? Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? A motion from Joe. Is there a second? Second from Corby. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Tonight's agenda has been officially adopted. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our clerk, Nicole Bafadari, to swear in our board members.
Thank you, Madam President. So as everyone knows, we had an election this past two weeks ago. And we are very excited to welcome two gentlemen back to the board and one new to the board. So we will go ahead and start in no particular order. I'm just going to go this way. So John, we'll go ahead and start with you. Can you raise your right hand or? Yeah, let's raise our right hand. And please repeat after me. I, John Porco, having been elected.
I, John Porco, having been elected
To the office of Verona Area School Board Member at Large.
to the office of Verona Area School Board Member at Large,
But have not yet entered upon the duties thereof.
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof.
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin.
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
And will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Sean. Juan Carlos. I, Juan Carlos Medina, having been elected to the office
I, Juan Carlos Medina, having been elected to the office
of Verona Area School Board Member, Portion 3, City of Verona.
of Verona Area School Board, portion of the city of Verona,
But have not yet entered upon the duties thereof.
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof.
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin.
and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
And will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, both of them. Well, we have them say that. You just said, see. Yeah. For me. Repeat after me. I, Corby White, having been elected to the office of
I, Corby White, having been elected to the office of
Verona Area School Board Member at Large,
Verona Area School Board Member at Large,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof.
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof.
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Barbie.
We are thrilled to have John and Corby back with us and Juan Carlos joining us. So this is our new board for the upcoming term. Excited to continue working with everybody and welcome aboard. Okay, so with that, we're going to turn it over now to our superintendent to begin our superintendent's report.
All right, good evening, everyone, and congratulations to our newly elected board member and our returning two board members. We appreciate your service, and I know the community truly appreciates your service as well. It's a huge commitment, but it's the right work on behalf of our students, our families, and our community as well. So thank you so much for your dedication to the Verona Area School District. It's really my honor and pleasure to be able to move the agenda forward and be able to do what we do best, which is serve students. And today, our student representation would be the Badger Ridge Middle School and Core Knowledge Student Council, along with their advisor. And we're excited to have them for a presentation. So your representatives are able to join us here to my left, and we look forward to a great presentation.
All right, okay, thank you so much for having us. These are awesome. These are awesome Badger Ridge and Core Knowledge Middle School, some of the many student council members. We have a really, really large group of student council members. These are a handful that took upon themselves to commit some extra action on a committee. So we have two different committees. Oh, I'll introduce myself first. Sorry, I'm Allie. This is my second year advising the student council for Badger Ridge and Core Knowledge.
I'm Carlos Orozco, and this is my first year joining Ally as an advisor for student council.
So this group has advocated for two different concerns that we feel are issues at Badger Ridge and Core Knowledge Middle School. All of these students as student council members and officers are in charge of talking to their peers a lot and trying to figure out what are the issues in our school, what do we want to change, what do we want to advocate for. So we're really excited to be advocating at the biggest level that we think we can do. They advocate all the time to their teachers, to our principals, all that stuff. So we're really excited to now be talking to you today. The two things that they have chosen to present on, first, they'll be talking about environmentalism in our school. We want to be more eco-friendly. That's something that we hear students talk about a lot. So these three in the front will be talking about that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about school meals, which I know we mentioned to you all last year. So we're happy to be back and to give more information on that. They've all done a lot of research and spent a lot of time putting all this information together. So I'm going to let them take it away. Let's introduce yourselves first.
So I'm Nora Marcus. I'm Lucy Franklin. And I'm Laura Vogt. We started by growing marigolds. We would like every teacher at Badger Ridge and Core Knowledge to receive a potted flower for teacher appreciation.
Talk about this.
Oh, yeah. So over here on the left is what our greenhouse looks like right now, and on the right is what we want it to look like. We want to start a green committee to help create a more sustainable school. This could be an after-school club that teachers would help run. 7th grade science classes will start using the greenhouse in the spring for their plant unit. We want to encourage other classes to use the greenhouse for their learning. Student council will continue to grow plans for events and fundraisers. One of the goals has already been achieved. We'll be having a growing green class for 7th and 8th graders starting next year. We want everyone at Badger Ridge and Cornwall to have access to the greenhouse somehow, some way.
So we're really excited that we will have a class next year. Our teachers decided on this, but I brought up to the teachers that our students, this is something that they've been talking about a lot, and so we think that really helped persuade that class to be starting next year. And there's already a ton of interest. That's really exciting.
Another one of our big goals is recycling. We would like to start recycling in our schools. At this time, our schools don't even recycle papers from the classrooms. Although we have recycling bins, we do not actually have a recycling dumpster designated for our school. The amount of paper schools waste each year by not recycling is over 320,000 sheets of paper per year. Our goal is to start recycling paper. Why should we recycle? Recycling is not only good for the environment, but for the earth, it prevents pollution, conserves energy, etc. It is a habit that all students should learn to become good citizens.
And that picture there is what these guys have talked about for an idea of what and how we could easily recycle. We know it's going to be a challenge in a school as big as ours, especially when we looked at all of our recycling bins in our building. We saw that, yeah, it's a big mix of garbage. So that would be really hard for custodians to sort through. And so we talked about what would be attainable. And so they settled on paper being the most attainable thing. And that picture there is an idea that we would have to be just in certain stations around the building. So that's our first group. Do you guys have any questions for our first group?
Well, first, I'm impressed that you are thinking about how to use the space that you have at Badger in a way that it's not being used and in a way that can be beneficial to not just you, just all of the students at school. So I'm really impressed that these are things that you've identified and not just identified, but then took the next steps to make these things happen and bring them into action. I find that really, really laudable. So well done.
All right, we'll move on to our next group. All right, this is our next group. They'll introduce themselves. They will all be talking about school. So first, let's introduce ourselves. So we can go ahead and go in order.
I'm Alex Tim.
I'm Zoe Eagleby. And so I'm Megan Bell. I'm Cooper J. I'm Sophie Wood.
So we pulled 260 random Badger Ridge and Cornell middle school students. 74.2% of students take a lunch from school take a school lunch every day or 2 times a week. A staggering 62.1% of students are dissatisfied or very dissatisfied with the school lunches, while only 6.2% are satisfied or very satisfied.
So based on our survey results, this is a summary of concerns that our students have about our school meal. Our first concern is quality. Numerous reports on food waste, quantity, and lack of good flavors. Our second concern is quantity. Most students said they are still hungry after school. Our third concern is waste and utensil. Many students commented about the amount of food that is wasted, as well as the idea of how to use school utensils. The board concerns allergies. Students with allergies, especially diets, there are limited options for them. I'm free and I kind of have to worry about cross contamination, and sometimes I can't get the things that I want because like I don't know if they're okay for me to have. So health is another concern. Many comments were also made about our school meals are healthy or not. Many students feel like they're not healthy. Our school frequently serves fast food items like hot dogs, French fries, and such.
Some of our ideas include portions of school lunches being larger along with having a better quality overall.
Allergies to the school app, should be specified. A lot of the times the app shows foods that are not accurate. Sorry. Allergens on the school app, they gave neutral color, should be specified. A lot of the times the app should be that are not, is not accurate for the actual, the person. Lastly, the variety of the meals, for example, foods from different cultures. Options for special diets, for example, dairy and gluten-free options. Many students also want different juice options like water.
Okay, so the students are still working on compiling some sources that they'd like to share with you. We have started some, so we're gonna share that with you guys at a later time. We have a putting a Google Doc together with just some of the research that they've done and to hopefully give you guys some ideas of maybe how we could change those things. Now, we of course don't know exactly how all of this could be changed, and you know, that's why that's why we're bringing it up to you. But yeah, so we will provide those resources to you. So, you guys have any questions for? Yeah.
How did you all, randomly poll students? What was that process like?
So we sent out a survey to every student advisory. And should have been announced by teachers during advisory classes, although like last year, my advisor was not super consistent about giving school announcements to us, but we had about 260 responses out of this student population. That's not accurate orientation.
Yeah, it was impressive that we got so many responses without actually telling kids. I think there's a survey in an email, so we noticed that just with the title of the email that caught their attention, which definitely proves our concern.
And the student created survey also, they were able to point out common trends, which was really interesting to see from a wide variety of middle schoolers and different perspectives, and they were able to identify those trends within this slideshow.
And we had a lot of fun going through the huge spreadsheet of responses. Yeah, we did that. It was awesome.
You guys are doing a phenomenal job every day in many of our jobs. When we bring an opinion or want something changed, oftentimes our bosses or people we work with will say, what's the data you have to present? So this is really fantastic.
Well, by speaking to you as a, by speaking to you as a school board, we hope to gain your support and raise awareness. I know that the student council wants to continue gaining support and awareness for any issues at Badger Ridge and Technology Middle Schools. So thank you so much for allowing us to be here this evening.
Thank you. First, I want to say, I'm just so impressed that last year you came and you raised these issues that, okay, the lunches are, I think the lunches are terrible, something along those lines. And I appreciate the candor, I'll be honest. I like the honesty, but what I appreciate even more is that you took it to the next level. And you clearly tapped into something that is a concern of your classmates. To get 260 people to respond to a survey, that's really good. That's really good. And to identify that there's some clear issues that you're able to back up by data is very helpful. First of all, as we look at what types of, things are going on in the schools. There's not a lot of people that love school lunch, apparently. That's really good to know. And I think the allergen issue is certainly something that is not just a wish, it's something that we have to make sure is safe. So I'm just very impressed, first by the follow through, and second by the amount of data and resources that you brought. I hope sometime that maybe the school board could come and have lunch with you all and get to see the greenhouse. That would be really, really cool. And you could show us firsthand some of the concerns that you have. Okay, thank you.
After the administration, we definitely want to recognize you here shortly. I'm a little jealous you're getting a higher response rate on your surveys than I am. Got a name and put it out there. I know, so we might be talking about strategies.
Maybe in their free time they can.
I know.
Sounds like the email subject line was really helpful.
So. I want to give you the whole group of certificate of recognition. So the Verona area certificate of honors of Badger Ridge Middle School and Fort Knowledge Charter School. 22-23 student council members for the service to Badger Ridge and Fort Knowledge. Hereby on April 17, 2023. Thank you so much for your service and dedication.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you so much for coming. And again, we're excited to hear from you. I can't wait to hear it next year too. And we will follow up with you
You'll see us.
to come and take a visit. So
So to our student council members, you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. We also are not going to be offended if you go at all. We are exciting, dynamic information coming this way, but we also know you have maybe homework and some other activities. So whichever you choose, we're okay with. Okay, we love to have you though.
yeah,
All right. So I want to quickly ground us in the next information, which will be our recommendation to the Verona School Board of Education for the Educational Equity Framework. And when I say regrounding, I just want to kind of really briefly take us on a journey of our kind of less than 2-year priority projects and where we are in those projects. First, and we think about it in terms of 3, we had our Board of Education coherent governance model, which we are practicing under and take very pride in. We'll have some of that today as well at each board meeting. We needed the resources to support our schools, so I had an operational referendum that came to fruition in November 2022. And as you know, we've been working diligently to complete our strategic framework, and we're still on pace for that completion here at the end of the spring. When you think about a strategic framework and knowing the desires of our community to have a very strong equity focus that is grounded in action, we wanted to make sure that the voices of our community, our students, our staff resonated with a equity, and I'm going to say originally statement, but we are transitioning to an equity framework we wanted to make sure that there is a statement that was followed with clear actions. And so when you have a statement with actions, that becomes a framework itself. What you'll hear as part of this presentation is a clear alignment to the strategic framework itself, especially the priority areas. We want to make sure that coherence resonates, but more importantly, that the voices resonate. And we're so happy to have Dr. Hawkins representing the academic services team, our assistant superintendent, and 2 phenomenal leaders at the student level. And we have both Kian and Liam. Kian and Liam are our senior leaders who represent the superintendent student advisory. So I get the honor of working with them a little less than once a month. And they are, you'll hear for yourself shortly. That I don't know what their words speak volumes, but their actions and their leadership are even more powerful. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hawkins to present on the new equity framework. You have a color copy that should be in front of you. If you'd like to follow along with you, this document that we placed in front of you. And Dr. Hawkins, I'm going to turn that over to you.
Thank you. Martin, you can share with the audience. So, thank you for allowing us to present to you. So we're going to talk about development of the educational equity framework. And so I'm just going to quickly kind of share with you the steps that led to developing our equity framework. So I will tell you that it is the result of countless hours of hard work. This work started, as Dr. Clarity said, more than 2 years ago, where we spent time grounding ourselves in the importance of understanding street data. And so, text that. This shared understanding allowed us to understand the power of hearing and lifting up the voices of our students, teachers, peers, and community members. So that was the work that we did last year. Next, I'll fast forward. We began the work of our strategic framework last August. And so we've provided updates for you all along the way. But as we got into the last phase, we were brought together to review the interim equity statement. And so this work
was reviewed and allowed our students, our student advisories, both middle and high school, along with our staff and our parent advisory team, members of our strategic framework steering team, to have a chance to look at the interim equity statement. I want to say that the overall strategic framework steering team included and was made up of, again, staff. So we had staff, which included teachers, support staff, building leaders, students. We had middle school students, we had high school students participate, parents, community members, and also we had 2 board members, Don Orko and Jen Murphy, who also participated in this work. So members of our advisory group and a group of our strategic framework steering team were posed the question: what do we want to be true and unique about VASD's equity? And so our voices of influence, as I said, included our middle school, high school staff, parent, and our strategic framework steering team. And tonight, I'm pleased to allow Liam. He is going to talk to you a little bit about his experience and the work in serving on the advisory team and his influence and impact on this equity work.
Hi, I'm Liam. I'm a senior at Verona, Verona High School. I'm very honored to be one of 19 students on the superintendent advisory team. We have shared our voices on other important subjects relating to the district, the equity framework being most important. Being a part of this team has allowed me to share my voice and represent queer students and their voices. It's given me the opportunity to practice being a leader and to make every student's voice heard. As a student on this team, I have learned many things about what the district is doing to create a better environment for students to learn and grow, but also about other students' experiences and different issues students face. I've grown as a person being on this advisory team, and I know other members have as well. We all came together sharing our experiences and knowledge. We were able to provide input for the equity framework. I admire the fact that you consider adding additional language about identity after hearing student voices and their knowledge on what identity covers. This new and improved equity framework will allow for all students to be represented and respected throughout the district. I appreciate the willingness of all of the adults on the school board to listen to our voices and understand that the world is changing and that the equity framework should change with it.
So he, along with, as he mentioned, several other students, were posed the question: what do we want to be true or unique about our equity statement? And some of the responses included things like, it should demonstrate collective responsibility, it should be actionable, and there should be an intentional call out to care and concern for our students and individuals in our school district. So next, students and other members of our advisory team, along with our small group of our strategic framework steering team, were then given another question. And that question was, they were asked to share their thoughts and provide feedback on what else are we missing when we think about our equity statement. And so a few examples that came out from that question were, we wanted a strong definition of what equity means, followed by action, an intentional call out for our focus groups, intentional statements about systemic racism, a clear and concise explanation on why this work really matters, statements that are founded in what the school is going to do and stand by to disrupt and provide clear action steps, and naming the identity markers by bringing them into, by not using words like regardless or, by not using words like regardless. So once this work was done at a subsequent meeting, there was another question that was posed. Consider specific actions that VASD can take to advance equity in our district. And so with that, staff, students, and community members provided information like, I apologize, like prioritizing two-way communication, valuing students, families and staff, building staff capacity, examining our policy. Just to name, they provided a list of recommendations of things. All of this information was then synthesized and aligned to the 5 priorities in the strategic framework to ensure coherence across all of our work streams. So the 5 priority areas that are action items aligned to are inclusive teaching and learning, value and belonging, student agency, wellness and mental health, and community collaboration. I'm gonna allow Keaton is going to speak to the importance and kind of wrap up this presentation.
So, hello, my name is Kieran Gerbo. I am a senior at Verona Area High School, and I was a part of the equity process. Why is there an importance for the equity framework and for students to be at the center of the process? Well, when building the foundations of America, equality and justice is not a consideration. For years and years, schools have left out not only minorities, but women too. And due to the lack of trust in youth, children's opinions were kept out of what was being built for them. These are our foundations. So why is there an importance for the equity framework and for students to be at the center of the process? It is because we are rewriting our wrongs. We have decided to consider the mistakes of our past in order to uphold the promise made by every school to a parent or guardian, to provide your child with the best possible environment. The only way we can do that is by incorporating specific policies to give no room for discrimination, prejudice, and bias. Also applying policies that will make teachers and staff encourage and believe in their students to reach success. The reason it will work this time is because students are being held at the center. As we begin to rewrite our wrongs, we'll continue to develop and change in order to uphold the promise made to parents and guardians. Our advisory council with the superintendent, Dr. Clarity, took time and thought to assist in forming the new framework. With the many experiences, not only from minorities, not only from women, not only from people with multiple sexualities, but children, we created something that is mighty and sustainable. Most importantly, it applies to people of all sorts.
That being said, I'm gonna respectfully turn it over to Clarity, and thank you all for your time.
So first, I'm gonna try not to show my emotion here on stage. But I sign every email or correspondence with in service. And Liam and Kian and every student like them is what I mean by in service. I have a tremendous amount of passion, care, respect, and honor for every student that I serve and have the honor of serving as superintendent of the Verona Area School District. And I want to thank you too for your leadership, for your voice, for your power, and the legacy that you have created here because of your willingness and commitment. So I just want to take a minute to applaud both of you and applaud our full advisory for everything that you've done and everything that you're going to continue to accomplish in your long productive life. So thank you so much. I'm going to respectfully ask that we could pause the superintendent's report to allow the board an opportunity to consider the adoption of the framework that's been put in front of you, and then after that process, we can return it back. Again, we're asking for an adoption process. We are considering the final product, so we're not looking for wordsmithing, commas, or anything. We will like this adopted as presented to the board.
So on behalf of the board, I want to say thank you. We have been working with, first of all, we anchor every meeting with reading our equity statement. So that puts everybody and reminds everybody why we're here, why we're sitting at these tables and who we are here for. And it's for you. As you mentioned, voices came to the board that showed our equity statement wasn't inclusive. So we've been reading an interim equity statement and waiting anxiously to hear the finished result of the statement that you brought to us tonight. I'm so grateful for the time and care that you all have taken, the voices that have come to it. We say that we want to be continuously improving as a district, but we can't continuously improve without the voices of the students that we are here to improve for. So thank you. This is very, very exciting, and I'm very impressed with the work. And I really do feel like this captures what makes Verona special and helps honor all of our students. So with that, Is there a motion to adopt the the new equity statement as presented?
So moved.
The equity framework. Thank you. The equity statement framework. I have a motion from Jen. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Joe. All in favor of adopting the Verona equity statement framework as presented, please signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? It has unanimously been adopted. Thank you so much.
All right.
Board, we have a new equity statement that we will be reading to start our new our board meetings from here on out. So excellent.
Yes, I know you have some homework to do. Both say,
If you snuck out, we would not hold that against you.
I'll take superintendent's report then.
Yes, you may go ahead back to superintendent's report. Thank you, everybody. We're gonna back to our agenda.
So before we transition to our next topic, I want to take an opportunity to thank our Board of Education. And, you know, round of applause doesn't give credence to the magnitude of what you just did here. This equity framework that will guide our way of thinking for desirably decades for now will be our stand for this front and center is not just coherent to our strategic framework, but it sits, hopefully Marcy's hitting buttons now to make this front and center on our sites, in our messaging, on our social media platforms. So the community and society as a whole understands what we stand for and what this board stands for and what this community stands for. And it's for the students that we serve, it's for the staff that we serve and all of our community members. So thank you so much for taking this monumental step. It means so much to our students, and I know it means so much to our staff and families, and students that are not in our presence right now are going to feel the ramifications because of what you accomplished. I also want to thank Dr. Hawkins and his academic search team and so many people that contributed to this. We had our parent advisory in so many voices, our staff advisory in so many voices, strategic framework committee. I mean, try to carry this around, and you know, we wanted to have it not just the right statement, but something we could follow with clear actions along the way. And that's what was so important, clear actions along the way. So thank you again for that, and thank you for your work.
Could I add something to that statement? I think just kind of a statement for the community. It's so cool to be an elected member of this board and realize that this is getting back to the whole point of being an elected member, which is listening to the people that you're supposed to represent. Like this whole statement of acknowledging the systems of inequity and being extremely purposeful about this did not exist in this previous one. And so if you leave the work up to the people who the systems aren't working for, then you kind of get something beautiful and something entirely more insightful. So I think the board, just to reiterate what Meredith had said before, like, thank you so much. You all feel like not only have I seen multiple people present, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna work for someday. Like, please don't forget me when I'm your employee. But also it just feels like a cheat code. Like everyone's talking about ChatGPT and putting things in there and spitting them out. Like, I feel like the next time I want to really get an answer, I'm just gonna ask a bunch of advisory council for it. Because this is, so thank you to our superintendent and all of the staff and students who have really helped support that, because this is markedly better than anything we could have put together.
Thank you. All right, we will now segue to part of our Queen's governance model, which is the monitoring of results. And for that, we are happy to have some additional representation from the academic services team by Dr. Hawkins as we begin to talk about career and technical education under results 2.2.1.
So tonight, we're going to talk, as I clearly said, about R 2.2.1, and we're in technical education. And so last year, on May 16, 2022, Board of Education approved the indicator and interpretation, and we shared with you all a video just to refresh your memory on that work. R2.21 expects that all students will be prepared for college and career by accessing advanced career and technical courses, opportunities to explore career interests and workplace knowledge in preparation for career pathways that require technology, literacy skills, inventive thinking, information analysis, problem solving, and decision making. So tonight I am joined by those kids up there, but tonight we're joined by Amy Wilson, the Director of Secondary, and then we're also joined by Judy Johnson, who is the coordinator for as a coordinator for CPE. And so tonight, before we get into the policy, we want to celebrate amazing things that are happening in this department. So I'll allow Amy and Jenny to celebrate and share wonderful information and things that are happening.
Okay, so one of the opportunities that we have for students coming up this next school year is that 10 of our future juniors, so current sophomores, will be able to begin their college journey while also earning credits at the high school. So the Early College STEM Academy is an opportunity for students during their junior and senior years to attend Madison College full time. And they will be joining 200 other students from MMSD at Goodman South, where they will attend full time. They are still Verona students, while also becoming Madison College students, earning credits, like I said, at both institutions, still able to continue to be Wildcats and participate in after-school activities and sports. So really excited. They're really excited to start this next phase and take up to 60 credits at Madison College while
That's amazing.
finishing up at the high school. Yes.
Really amazing. Wow.
So I'm officially part of our, one of the indicators tonight, just an opportunity and a demonstration of our commitment to helping support students in their pathways and what it is that they're most interested in exploring. So these are 8 of our students that have accepted their place in the Early College STEM Academy. We have 2 more that will be joining, and then we'll get a full group picture this week when they get their Madison College IDs. And of course, we'll be following them and supporting them on their journey and learning from their experiences as we hope to be able to continue this partnership next year in the second.
Very exciting. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think that we'll be anxious to hear how they're progressing. Very, very exciting.
So as we jump into our results policies, then we have 4 indicators tonight. And prior to each indicator, we just wanted to provide a little background or context about what that indicator may entail. And so we'll do that, and then we'll switch to the data, and then again, provide some more context. So our first indicator is about participation or enrollment in CTE or career and technical ed courses. This is our only indicator that we're actually measuring 6-12, because we do have CTE courses at the middle school level. So you can see some of those offerings up here. In 6th grade, students enroll in we call it the exploratory wheel. They have 4 classes that they take, 1 each quarter. 2 of those, Infotech and Family and Consumer Science, would count as CTE courses. Our 7th and 8th grade students have access to 3 school-wide or 3 elective course offerings, in which they could take as many CTE courses as they would like. They also would use that space to take music, world language, arts, and etc. But a few of our CTE courses at the middle school level are listed here. I'll let Jenny speak to those in high school.
So as you can see from this slide, the number of CTE class offerings at the high school really grows. We are really proud of the number of opportunities that students have to take courses in everything from woods, metalworking, agriculture, family consumer science, the culinary and human services like childcare, as well as business. Each year, so
all of these classes are not running every single year. We kind of take a look at what students request in their courses and determine which classes and then how many sections we're going to run. So like I said, you can see that there's a wide variety of courses that are offered, and our teachers take into consideration what is popular with students, but also what's needed out in the world and industry. So we did see an increase in course requests for CTE courses this year and continue to try to think about how we can fix that.
As we see that increase in requests, also then matriculating into students actually enrolled in CTE. So for indicator one, in terms of increasing the percentage of students enrolled in CTE courses, and this is the first semester or second semester comparing last year to this year, we do see about a 1.8% increase in the number of those students, 612, that are enrolled in a CTE course. For indicator 1A, when we break that out by our specific focus groups, we recognize that 6 of our 7 focus groups that had sample sizes over 10 also saw an increase in student enrollment from 21-22 to 22-23. And we dug into that a bit more. It was our Asian student population that did not see an increase. And we dug into that, we recognized that that was solely specific to the middle school level. Asian students at the high school actually were accessing more CTE courses than in 21-22. And thinking about the middle school data, the school day is the same amount. So we're just recognizing those students may have made different choices into a world language, into an art, or into a music, but recognizing that those offerings are there and accessible.
Just for clarification, so all focus groups at the high school level, did they all increase? Great.
Okay, our second indicator is about CTE concentrators. So first I'll just kind of define what a CTE concentrator is. So a concentrator is specific to our junior and senior students. And they are identified as a student who takes 2 or more CTE courses in a specific career pathway. So you can see from this slide, kind of shows some of the different pathways. So someone that was in vet science and advanced animal medicine, or any 2 of those in a pathway would be considered to be a concentrator. So by looking at the number of concentrators, it demonstrates that a student is interested in a deeper level, like learning more in that specific career pathway. And it shows our ability to offer those career pathways and our CTE teachers' abilities to keep those students coming back and continue to learn.
So when we look at this data, it's important to know that for this indicator, indicators 2, 3, and 4, because it's not yet the end of the semester, we don't actually have completion data. So this data is in progress. Obviously, the 21-22 data is completion by the end of the year. We're using this as what's happening currently in April, mid-second semester of 22-23. So just recognizing that slight nuance in the data that we want to. So as Jenny said, our CTE concentrators really are 11th and 12th grade students. Here we also see a pretty sizable increase in the number of 11th and 12th grade students that are completing 2 or more courses in a specific pathway. So we're excited to see that and recognize that the offerings that we're able to provide for our students are helping them work towards their post-secondary goals. Very exciting there. Indicator 2A, similarly, then we did see 6 of our 7 focus groups also saw an increase in students accessing and earning their CTE concentrators from year to year. For this one, the focus group that decreased was our students with disabilities. When we look at that data a bit further, and I hand with our assistant director of special education at the high school, we recognize that we haven't necessarily provided clusters of students to have a rotation of supported classes within some of the more advanced CTE courses. And so that's something that we're working on in scheduling for 23-24 to make sure that we can have the systems of support available to students who may be interested in completing a concentrator or multiple courses within the same sequence.
Do you have an idea of like a target? So clearly all of our students will not be interested in a career of veterinary sciences or culinary sciences. Do we have like an idea of like 50% of our students should in general have an interest in this one area, and 40% of them should be concentrators. Like, do we have a target of what makes the most sense with our student population and where we see jobs being available, or is the target always more? I know we wrote it that way, or we kind of agreed to it that way, but has it changed at all the way we're kind of thinking about it?
Yeah, and you looked at that, Nicole, as the person who gets to present fine arts next month and elective PE later. At some point, they can't all be green.
Right, right.
It can increase in every single area.
Right.
And so I appreciate you lifting that up. I think in the spirit of this is really about how are we making our course offerings match student interest and student tactics. Right? So as we're working more robustly with students to develop academic and career plans and 4-year plans, we want to make sure our course offerings then match the trajectories that our students are setting out for themselves. And so you're right. In some areas, that might be an increase. For some students, becoming a CTE concentrator would be really helpful in their future plan. For other students, that may be less important. And so as we dig into building more robust systems for academic and career planning and 4-year planning for students, then we'll have better data to be able to reflect what that should look like.
Like it might be a more percentage match to planned careers. That's really cool.
Yeah, so I think there's ways for us to continue to dive into that. For now, I think this is a helpful indicator to know that the course offerings we have are supporting students to build towards their own pathway. And there is a sequence of learning that we can provide here at the high school that really matches things that students are interested in and feels valuable.
So Amy, I'm looking at this indicator kind of in 2 different ways. So first that we're ensuring that students are aware that these opportunities exist and how they can access them, but also simultaneously that we as a district are not putting barriers in place to keep students from achieving their goals that they set for themselves. So this indicator has a dual purpose in a way, that we're really building, but also barriers are removed. To the best, as you've identified, there's some barriers that we've identified that need to be removed, but that's the work that is ongoing.
Definitely, it is about building awareness, and we've seen some of our leadership. How do we help students to know and to begin to plan, whether it's in the way that we laid out the course guide, but some of these different pathways, so they can see, oh, I can plant some soils this year, next year, that's what this would look like. Let me think ahead to what that means and support students and families to build that awareness for their students. You've definitely noted that. And then it also does push us to think about where are we creating unnecessary barriers for students along the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's indicator 2, off to indicator 3 around our dual credit CTE offerings.
So dual credit offerings in CTE, again, these are classes that could possibly run, they don't all run every single year. It depends on what students are requesting and what it's into the schedules. And staff, so it does occasionally require staff to get additional training or spend time, sometimes taking training with the corresponding college or maintaining 2 separate grade books. So there is a staff commitment. So we're really appreciative of all of our teachers that provide these opportunities for our students. Currently, our 22-23 dual credit offerings are in connection with Lakeshore Technical College, Blackhawk Tech, and Madison College. So it is worth noting as we look at numbers, students that enroll in dual credit courses at Verona also have to enroll in the dual credit course at the college. So sometimes there are students that will not do both. They'll just take the class at Verona and not necessarily enroll in a course at Exeter College.
Is that due to financial reasons?
No, that's a great question. There is no fee for students that take these dual credit classes. They don't have to pay any additional cost. For certain classes like advanced wood processes, students might choose to not earn the dual credit because they can kind of branch off and do their own advanced project versus what's dictated by the school. And so they might not be pursuing woodworking as a career, but really want to kind of just have that creative flexibility to work with their money.
We see that playing out a bit in the numbers here for indicator 3, in terms of increasing the percentage of students earning dual credit. We're seeing that, yes, there indeed was an increase. And our number is still 40 students, which is a relatively small size, right, across the many different dual credit offerings that we have. And so one of the areas that we want to dig into further, of course, when you divide 40 against all of our different focus groups, we're sometimes seeing one group staying the same or an increase of 1 or 2 students. So 4 of our focus groups did increase. We had 2 that stayed the same at 0 and 1 that decreased by 1 student. And so when we think about our leadership moves and following up to support our students with earning dual credit, I think following up on your exact question about why would a student not earn dual credit in that way and talking to their students about what are their goals, and can dual credits at a technical college like we're offering be supportive of that, or no, they're looking for the experience. So I think us better understanding what that looks like will be important in our students and determining which courses to continue offering and which other technical colleges to continue partnering. And then our 4th indicator on CT industry certifications.
So industry certifications are certifications or credentials or licenses that students have been able to earn through certain of our CTE courses. So they're recognized by trade associations or organizations in a particular industry that allow students to show knowledge and perseverance to complete this certification in a specific industry, and it really adds to marketability for a student. It's something that they can use as they pursue their career goals. The list that you see on the slides are industry certifications and credentials that some of our Verona students have earned or plan to earn. So assistant childcare teacher is in its first year. Childcare teacher is something in the future, just to name a few. So our CTE teachers are really committed to growing these opportunities for students.
So are these programs that we provide them the knowledge, like these are available to you, they're not things that kids are figuring out on their own?
That's a great question. So certified nursing assistant, we have a nursing assistant class, professional culinary, that again is done in a class. Students can also, for some of these, do like an 8+ section where they're working through the materials consistently, where they're kind of doing that on their own, but most of these are within the class.
So from at the high school level, the 9 and 12 CTE classes are offered. Is it problematic at all if the students' interests change from year to year, they decide to go a different career path or different? No problem, no issue whatsoever. They just enroll in. Okay.
Yeah, so they can take, I encourage them to try a variety of things so that they can, So some kids will really commit to a certain path and they're like, I want to take all the culinary classes that I can. They love it. Some don't know what they want, so I just encourage them to try everything and see, learn useful skills along the way, and you might discover a passion or an interest.
And the idea with CT industry certifications is really students who do know, I want to be able to do this, being able to be safe certified when they leave Verona area high school will benefit them in some of their next steps. Know what that looks like on there. So the data in terms of indicator 4 around our industry certifications, we have seen some growth from 21-22 to 22-23. That does translate across all focus groups, with the exception of our Asian students who stay the same here. I think when we think about our next steps and our leadership moves around industry certifications, it really comes back to what you raised earlier, Mary, about awareness. How can we make sure these aren't necessarily things that are in the course guide, right? It's these specific industry certifications. So how do we make sure that students and families are aware that these are offerings that we provide and how they might be beneficial for their students? Yeah. So those are 4 indicators, which takes us to our overall leadership moves as we think about results policy 2.2.1. And so there's some specific moves that we're making to continue to make sure that we can grow our career and technical programs to align with the interests of our students, right? Recognizing there can't be an increase forever. But that our goal is really to make sure that we can continue to maximize access for our students and provide really robust programming. And part of that is building that awareness. And so our first leadership move here was the course selection process. The way that we approached the course selection process this year meant that we tried to make our course guide more interactive. We had a big program and pathways showcase where students were demonstrating many of the different We have the different skills that they're building within our CTE courses. We also then did some additional targeted outreach and followed a priority scheduling process for some students in our focus groups. Recognizing that sometimes in the past, some of our CTE courses, there was a high demand and they would fill up and students wouldn't have access. And so this year we followed a priority scheduling process to avoid that and really dismantle some of those barriers that we just talked about with our equity framework. The second bullet point out there, removing barriers to access in middle school TWE. We also recognize that for students involved in our TWE program, they were given one less elective or school-wide offering. Spanish language arts was one of their electives or school-wide offerings, which meant they could take one less band, music, or CTE course. Based on that feedback and with the help of Rosemary, our Director of Multilingual Programs, in the future, next year, Spanish language arts will be embedded within those core classes, which will again free up access for students who may want to take another elective or CTE offering. Based on the demand this year, we've also increased our CTE allocation. We're hiring for an ag teacher at the high school, as well as a FACE teacher, and we'll increase 15 sections of CTE courses next year at the high school alone. In addition to the growing green class that you heard about from our middle school students. So exciting developments there, and of course, all driven by student course requests and student interest in student numbers. And then developing rotation for supported sections to increase access for our focus group students, so students who want to move through that concentrator, making sure that we have systems to support students along the way. And then the last two really are around dual credit and making sure that we can continue to grow and expand our offerings for dual credit and industry certifications. We also recognize that much of what we're offering in dual credit is based on our teachers' willingness to go and partner with Madison College or Lakeside. And sometimes that means they're keeping 2 or 3 grade books. Right? They have to have one for Verona High School and one for each of these schools, and they need to make sure their syllabus meets just these requirements. And so thinking about how can we continue to support and build capacity with staff who are making these offerings available for our students, making sure that their needs in that process are also supported. So those are some of our next steps to make sure that we can continue growing our program as the demand necessitates and as we continue to meet student needs. I think our final recommendation is that if we shift our board reporting to the end of the year or June and July, we'll be able to give you end of year data in the future as opposed to the data that we were able to share today. What questions that you have?
Just a comment. I think I get most questions when I'm out and about our CTE programming. It comes up all the time, and it comes up from people who've had students in the district in the past, and are just so thrilled that we are having a robust CTE offerings, from parents who have kids that are in our CTE programming and who are just raving about the options that the classes have given their students. My son's a 2-year graduate now. His biggest regret is that he did not do, any of these when he had the opportunity. And it just come back, take on it. Like, if you only could, that would save us all some time and money. But I'm just really appreciative of the time and the work. And then now that we can also, because I get these questions all the time, to be able to say, we are working diligently and effectively at ensuring that our students have these opportunities and that we can back it up with data. So the anecdotes and the data are matching, and that's always a really nice feeling. But this is really wonderful. Thank you.
And we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the amazing educators we have in our CTE departments at both the high school and the middle schools, who continue to make learning really relevant, hands-on, engaging, that continues to foster and be interested in.
It answers that age-old question of why am I learning this? And here you're putting why I'm learning it directly to real world skills. So thank you for the presentation.
Do we have any, again, not an indicator, but just a curiosity question. Do we have any correlations between students who take CTE and like attendance or level of engagement? Like, do we see the same positive benefits of CTE as we see in things like extracurriculars, where students feel like more engaged with the school and therefore have better attendance, things like that? Or does that not show as a
So we didn't cite this data in that way. Sure. I think what we anecdotally recognized in talking to students and revamping a bit about the first enrollment process, or sometimes for some students, the CTE course is the course that students are looking for developing. Right, and so making sure that in the scheduling process, we can help students get access and increase the number of sections, so more students have access to those courses. Help further support their engagement. If that's the hook, that helps the student think about, this is what I'm looking forward to, here's how I can apply this, and then spur engagement in their other classes as well. That's part of the goal.
So I always get asked by parents, is there a way to make a suggestion of offering of a CTE class? How do they go about making a suggestion when voicing their opinion? Of course, availability of what could be offered or should be offered based on their child's interests.
Yeah, so we have a course approval process where teachers can propose a course, the standards align to that, et cetera, and then there's a review process. That happens in October, before we actually build the course guide out. But I think what you're naming for me is the importance of involving family and student voice in that process.
Yeah.
The current process is really driven by teachers and teachers, of course, getting input from students. But I think us building a more robust or systematic way about going about student and family input in that would be really important to do that for the future. As we continue the program. Thanks for that.
Do we ask any questions on the climate survey specific to our CTE course offerings? Just so I thought of that because following up on Nicole's question, talking about, and this is something that we talk a lot about how these improving indicators are good now, but eventually we need to set a different baseline. And I think I heard you say that what we really want with the CTE course offerings is to make sure that number one, we're giving offerings to match interest and that we're also removing barriers that might be in place. So I'm wondering how we gauge interest to make sure that what we're offering is consistent with what students want.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'm not aware of anything on the climate survey specifically that names CTE, but I think your points really well, thinking through how do we help students within their trajectory and the course offerings, making sure to match that. We have the course requests, and so we use that data to determine the whole entire schedule and which sections we add and which positions we add. And what we're missing in that process perhaps is they only get to choose what the offerings are that are there. And so I think as we go about the course guide and the course selection process, possibly having some focus groups, or using our student advisory group or the principal's advisory group to talk through that with students and make sure that we have some systems to gain student voice in terms of what those matches look like. We also have now sectioned off our advisories at the high school, so our advisories are grade level specific. There's a 9th grade advisory, 10th grade advisory, et cetera. And I think we could lean into some of the advisory process to better understand students kind of 4-year planning and be able to foreshadow in the future. There's a large population of students in 10th grade interested in this. What does that mean for how we continue to build things out? And so I think that's given further into.
Thank you, those are really good.
Any other questions from the board? I swear if you keep putting pictures of lambs on social media, you were gonna have all of the board hanging out down in the CTE area. All the time. Between that and the culinary and the woodworking, I would also like to come back to some course. Maybe that's a suggestion, adult classes for board members.
You could think of money now.
So this was really helpful. Board, do we have any other questions or can we bring it to the board for consideration? Is there a motion to accept and approve the report as presented? There is a motion by Nicole. Is there a second? There is a second by Corby. So with that, we will take the presentation into discussion for the board. Thank you so much for presenting. From the board's perspective, we want to take a look at the report. Are there any questions that the board has? I think we've surfaced a few things that I think we're going to need to come back to as we look at indicators. Just at some point, continued growth is going to be a problem. Joe, you've been ringing this bell for 2 years. Continued growth with percentages is always going to be a problem. I think it's helpful now to kind of as we are building these up. So is there anything other than that we as a board have questions about? Nope. Okay. Are we ready to vote?
We just preparing, are we voting on the report inclusive of the change? The report this again in the future.
Let's do the report first. And then come back and circle back to possible date. So we have a motion and a second to approve the report, the monitoring report as presented. All in favor, signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? The monitoring report has been approved as presented. Dr. Clarity, did you want to address changing monitoring schedule, or is that something?
Amy, oh, there you go. What date would you?
Is that something that we could get a specific recommendation and we can then move that around? I think moving it is no problem. We can. I don't think it'd be a
And that
problem.
wouldn't be this year, that would be the strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we could, Cabinet or Cole, provide a suggested date that would, and I really want your input on that, like when would be a good time that, all the data will be in and we'd be able to give a full report, if that would be June or July. And I know you'll be in summer, which we'll take it and go from there. All right.
And then we can pick that up at our next meeting. So, okay. So with that. Any general board updates? You've been busy.
We had new board members.
And you can see the.
Yes, so
Thank you.
Thank you again to Tamara and Lori, who helped. As usual, they had a wonderful setup. Also, thank you to Ken and Brad, who were again part of our board of canvassers. And it was a great turnout, turnout of the polls as well, so.
Thank you for the work that you've done too. Of course, very much appreciated. Any other updates from the board?
A couple, I'm assuming, are you gonna talk about the African American history?
Go
Or, well, you can talk about it. Well, Mary, myself and Corby were able to attend the African American History Academic Bowl. I think I got that right.
History challenge.
It is a lengthy title.
And it was really impressive, to watch high drama.
It was.
Palms were sweating. I believe Verona swept all the regional. And it was hard. Being American for keeping score ourselves.
I think we collectively, as a team, maybe got two right.
One each.
So the students were great.
They were.
The students were fantastic, and the knowledge just to sit there and get questions wrong like we were, was incredible. And, so yeah, this as well, and you're doing well spent.
If I could just say, I'd like to thank just 100 Black men of Madison for the amazing partnership that they provided this opportunity for the students here in Dane County. And a lot of students are going to Vegas to
All the students are going to Vegas.
compete at the national level. That's very good.
On behalf of the Black men of Madison, we thank Verona for allowing us such a beautiful facility that the students, when they walk into the Performing Arts Center, who have never been there, they're like, wow. So that sets the tone in the stage.
If I could quickly add on to that, so there's always a key person or people that are liaisons between our our partnerships, like the 100 Black Men of Madison and our district. And this year and the years moving forward, it's been Karen Suss Glover. So all the timing, everything, that you saw that came to fruition was her and her work. And we also have Rita Mortensen, who can just do anything. She's amazing. If you haven't got to read it, but thank you, Karen, for being a key liaison, Dr.
And in addition, so share out about CISA, I haven't had our monthly meeting yet, but I've gotten our legislative review from them. And I would encourage everybody listening and the board to go through and see what's on the docket for our legislature this year. It's interesting. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of detailed stuff out there. There's also a review that we got to look at around all the referendum that came up in the spring. And I believe statewide, and fewer than 50% of them passed. And so there are some school districts out there that are really going to be struggling. So yeah, so I think those two documents in concert are worth looking at and understanding.
Just another reminder how grateful we are to our community and supporting our public school and our
So
schools.
yeah.
I also wanted to, say, a huge thank you to Lisette Enegas and everyone here at the high school who helps coordinate the Latinx Leadership Summit. So Joe and I were actually able to join Joe Maldonado, who's an alderperson in Pittsburgh, who hosted a session and had a bunch of other community leaders from all over. And we talked with students about like how they can get civically engaged. Dr. Clarity opened the day up, and I think there were 98 to 12th graders. And a bunch of different sessions there. I was excited to like meet the speakers and people who were here. And I was also very impressed to see we had in our session, so many students from like Colombia and Venezuela and Spain and everywhere. So it was a really, really cool thing to see. And the presenters also spoke in Spanish and made sure that English was accessible to everyone in the rooms, which was a great reminder that we have scholars learning all of these advanced curriculums in their second language. And it was just super impressive. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone at the high school who organized that as well.
Thanks to you and Joe for going in.
Yeah, it was really fun. Really fun.
Okay, anything else? We've got a busy board. Gosh, okay. Is there any public comment tonight? Hearing none, we can move on to superintendent's consent agenda. Everyone had a chance to review the items in the consent agenda. Any questions? Any items to pull? Hearing nothing, the consent agenda has been approved as presented. Next item is the board consent agenda. Same, any questions from the board? Hearing none, the board's consent agenda has been approved as presented. Next up is the future agenda items. Again, you'll see our schedule for board. We also have our Verona Senior Night Awards that's coming up on May 8th. Graduation is on the calendar for June 10th. So a couple of special events to keep an eye on. Okay, so with that, is there anything?
Just really quickly, just a reminder that if the board members are always welcome to join me at WASDA on the 26th of April. It goes 26th to 28th, but if you look at the agenda, you can pick one of the days or specific sessions, and I mean, give 3 days worth of time. We wouldn't have that expectation, but if there happened to be more than 4 board members there, I would just need to know so I can notice it and get you registered and notice the location.
Are we able to?
I simply got it again.
Yeah, and then we can, let's see, maybe Lori, could you help us kind of coordinate if people are going on certain days, so we can make sure that we're tracking board members, or if we need to do any work on that front. Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, so now we are going to have a motion to adjourn to closed session. It's going to take a while to read, so give me a minute. We've got adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin statute 19.85 sub 1 sub G to confer with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved regarding compensation. Adjourn to closed session under the same statute to confer with legal counsel regarding litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, which is a separate item. Wisconsin statute 19.85 sub 1 sub G to confer with legal counsel with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved regarding social media lawsuit. Wisconsin statute 19.85 sub 1 sub E to deliberate or negotiate the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session regarding purchasing of property. Is there a motion to adjourn to closed session under those exemptions? There's a motion from Joe. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second from John. Starting with Joe, we'll take a roll call vote.
Aye.
Corby?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Juan Carlos?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
And I am I as well. We are officially in closed session. We'll take a 5-minute break and come back.
And then I joined a different Zoom link. Is that right, you all? So I should
Yes.
close out of this one? Okay.
Exactly. Perfect.
Okay. See you shortly.
No. Hang on. Are we?
Yeah.
And right now.